Welcome to Prime Life. We call it Retirement 2.0. Leave each episode with tips and new ideas to help you navigate retirement in our new age. It's your time. Make it count.
This podcast is for educational purposes only. It is not intended as medical, investment, or financial advice. We do not sponsor or endorse any of the individuals, companies, products, or services featured on this podcast. Any statements or opinions expressed are of the individual who makes them. We hope you enjoy the episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Prime Life Podcast. This is Joseph Katz, and I'm here again with my co-host, Mary. Mary, what's going on today?
You know, Joseph, quite a bit's going on today. All good. I'm always excited to be with you. And I hear that we have quite an amazing guest, which I'm excited to introduce.
I can't remember who that guest is, so maybe you could do the intro.
That's always like you, Joseph. And I really do. I love our time together because of your sense of humor. We all need more of it. So I'm very excited to introduce Rena Yudkowsky. She has an MSW in geriatric social work, and she's the CEO of Memory Matters. Rena, welcome to the Prime Life Podcast. Why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Hi, Mary. Hi, Joseph. Thank you so much for having me here. I am a geriatric social worker, and I am the CEO of Memory Matters, as you said. I teach online memory improvement courses to midlifers and seniors. So basically, I help people improve their memories so that they can age more sharply and healthfully and happily, remembering what's important to them to remember.
So there's so much here to talk about. We've had guests talk about Alzheimer's and preventing some of that, or whatever you could do to delay it, I guess. I was poking around your websites, and I'm a big tea drinker, so I'm just going to go right in for it. And tell me about this teas. You talk about teas in some of your literature.
Yeah. So if no one knows what Joseph's talking about, I'll tell you. So TEAS is an acronym that I put together, TEAS, and it actually stands for 4 different techniques that can help us improve our focus, which is so related to memory. So, and this TEAS webinar that I do, I call it, "What did I come to the fridge for?" I'm sure you all can relate to that. You go to the fridge, you open the fridge, and I'm like, oh no, what did I come here for? And I blame that not only on memory, or not on memory at all, actually, but focus. So the TEAS, the TEAS, we can talk about 4 ways to improve our focus to improve our memory. So I'll give you the quick, if you want the, spoiler alert, the quick answer to that one. When you go to the fridge and open it and don't know what you came for, it's because your mind got distracted, either by internal distractions, our thoughts, or external distractions, the phone, Facebook notifications, the doorbell, the dog, the kids, whatever. So it's distraction. It's actually not your memory. So the easy way out of that is when you think, I need the milk from the fridge, from that point till you get to the fridge, you say milk, 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 milk. Sounds ridiculous, but that is what will help you remember what you went to the fridge for. Because what are you doing? You're keeping your mind on one task, one focus. So that's the beginning part of the TEAS.
I do that all the time. And it's funny because I was just saying to my husband the other day, I was saying, he commented like, oh, I went upstairs to get something and I can't believe I didn't remember. And I went and I did something else. But to your point, we all get distracted. Could be, like you said, the cell phone. It could be a noise outside. It could be someone calling us and asking us to do something else. So I love that acronym that you used. So what are some other examples that you can share that, individuals experience? And then you say, could be this, or let me give you some exercises. And I'm calling them exercises because maybe that's not the right term, but I would love to hear that.
Sure. So if we stick with the T's, so I'll go through them. I'll tell you what they are, and then we'll see how much time you want to cover on them. So the T is task. It stands for one task at a time. Because like you just said, we all multitask, but multitasking is not good for the brain. It trips us up. So we all do it because we all feel like, oh my gosh, we're so busy. I got to do this and this and this and this all at the same time. But guess what? It's not good for your brain. It trips us up. So that's the reason actually why it is illegal in most places to talk on the cell phone while driving. Because when you talk on the cell phone while driving, what's your brain doing? It's talking on the cell phone. It's not focusing on driving. And it's dangerous. They actually say it's the equivalent of driving while drunk. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. That's how distracted you are when you're talking on the phone while you're driving. So T stands for task, one task at a time, which means that you're not trying to talk on the phone while you're baking a cake, because then you're going to say, did I put salt in here? Did I put sugar in here? It means that you're not checking your WhatsApp while you're talking to your child or grandchild, because you're not going to remember what that child told you. My kids already know if I'm looking at my phone, don't even talk. Say, I need your attention, and then wait till mommy gives her attention, because otherwise they know it's not going in. So multitasking trips up our brain. It makes us less creative. It makes us feel stressed. And here's an interesting stat. It temporarily lowers our IQ by 15 points. Temporarily lowers our IQ by 15 points. So those are a lot of reasons you don't want to be multitasking. But really, it also really hurts our memory, because you're going to tell me, I can't remember what I went into the room for, but it's not memory. It's your brain was doing something else at the same time. So that's the T. You want to hear the others?
Well, definitely. I want people to go listen to your webinar, because it sounds like there's a lot to get there. But maybe you'll touch on some of the other pieces of that T's as we go. You touched on this focus idea, and I jotted down attention. People are ADD. That's a real thing. Yeah. I don't remember the stat, but apparently people today have the attention span of a goldfish, right? You can 5 seconds. 8 seconds. Whatever it is. So is this an aging issue, or is this a society issue, or is it something else? Like what's the issue here?
Yes, and yes. So yes, aging. So when we get older, it is harder to pay attention to more than one thing at a time. So that's another reason why you want to stop multitasking as you get older. So that is one thing that gets more difficult as we get older. Now, if you had ADHD when you were 20, 30, 40, and 50, guess what? It's not going away when you get older, right? So it's just getting worse. So if you're getting older and you had ADHD and you're finding you're blaming your memory on stuff, check your focus. Stop multitasking and ask yourself, is this something I paid attention to in the first place? So you're expecting yourself to remember something, whatever that something is, where you put your keys or whether you took your medicine, for example, and ask yourself, did I even give this any attention in the first place? Because if you didn't, then you are not even supposed to remember it. But so the point is, we want to give it the attention it deserves so that it can get into our memories. My point is, oftentimes we don't pay attention, but then we expect ourselves to remember something that it's not in long-term memory because we didn't encode it properly, because we're ADHD and we need to either stop multitasking or take more time to do the task, or really give it even more attention and more focus. I always say attention and intention. We have to make the intention to remember. So if you're ADHD, you're going to have to work a little harder at this. And I don't think it gets easier as we get older. And in terms of societal stuff, yes, we are living in a very distracted society, right? How many of our phones have WhatsApp dinging, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter? I don't know how many, dinging all the time with messages. I mean, how could you sit down to write an email and then have 20 different notifications dinging at you? There's no way you could focus, right? So yes, and yes to all the things you mentioned, Joseph.
So this would be a natural one for me. I want to learn from you, Rena. What are some solutions in terms of exercises that are good for the brain?
And we'll get that answer after a brief word from our commercial sponsors.
NASA is always working harder to be your carrier of choice. We offer insurance products that can help you meet your retirement goals, such as protecting your savings, securing lifetime income, or paying for healthcare costs. We're dedicated to providing best-in-class service and are keeping things simple, and we'll have your back. We have around 400,000 policyholders and contract holders and have been doing this for a long time, 170 years, but we remain humble enough to always try to improve. For more information, visit nfg.com. Nassau Insurance products are issued by Nassau Life and Annuity Company of Hartford, Connecticut. Nassau Life Insurance Company, East Greenbush, New York, or Nassau Life Insurance Company of Kansas, Overland Park, Kansas. Subsidiaries of Nassau Financial Group. Products are not available in all areas. Policyholder counts are for all Nassau companies as of September 30th, 2022, and are subject to change.
Okay, so there are lots of things, exercises. In fact, I have a whole webinar called Train Your Brain. So people always say to me, is Sudoku good for your brain? Are crossword puzzles good for your brain? And the answer is that there are different parts of your brain that need to be stimulated and challenged, just like there are different parts of your body. So when you go to the gym, you don't only work your triceps or your biceps, right? You do exercises for all different muscle groups. Same thing with your brain. Your brain has a lot of different important parts that control everything we do. So we need to exercise the different parts of the brain. So for example, Sudoku is good for one part of the brain. Yes, do Sudoku. But if you only do Sudoku, you're not working out the other parts of your brain. That, for example, reading maps is good for another part of your brain. Doing math problems, doing word recall exercises. So there's so many different exercises. So the point is two important points. One is do a variety of exercises. And B, it has to challenge your brain. If it's not hard for you, it's not doing the job. So you want it to be a little bit hard so that it challenges, but not too hard that you get stressed out. So it's train your brain, don't strain your brain. That's what Dr. Amen says. Train your brain, don't strain your brain.
I love that. I love that.
So a few minutes ago, you opened the door slightly to the whole conversation of neuroplasticity, and one of my favorite topics, Mary knows, we've had people talk about brain science on the show in the past. Is the neuroplasticity is that part of memory? Like, can you train your brain to remember better? Is that a possibility?
Yes.
Or once you have something in there, keeping it in there?
Yes. So yes, you can definitely train your brain. Some of the memory champions, they get up there and they spew off, 100 numbers after pi. That is a trained brain. So yes, you can train your brain, but most of us don't need to remember 100 numbers after pi, but we like to remember if we turned off the stove, took our medicine, and locked the door, right? So yes, you can train your brain. Now, we're not talking about someone with dementia. People with a diagnosis of MCI and or any type of the dementias, it's going to be harder to remember the techniques that I teach. But they still need to stimulate and challenge their brain. But in terms of improving, it's harder to say that they can actually improve, even though we don't give up on anyone. But in terms of for younger people, or even for people in their let's call it midlife, okay, where they start to be concerned about memory, and there are a lot of reasons for that. But yes, you can definitely train your brain. So people are always saying to me, "Oh, Rena, I'm so bad at names. I'll never remember your name." And I'm like, don't say that. If you believe that, will be true. That is true to you. But like Jim Quick says, if you believe you can or you can't, you are right. So if you believe you cannot remember my name, you cannot remember my name. But if you believe that there are techniques that I can teach you to help you remember my name, then of course you can remember my name. In fact, you can remember the name of 30 people in this room if you wanted,
I don't think I'm ever going to forget your name after the way you talked to us earlier.
Absolutely not. No, I think that's so true. Even, my career has been sales and marketing, and we would always say, there are techniques like what I find with someone's name is repeat their name several times and while you have it handy, and then you will get it and you will remember. But what I'm interested in is I was thinking, of course, of my husband, my dad, my mom, especially my dad. He's very interesting. When I talked to him on the phone for Father's Day, we went to a Red Sox game, and you talk about sports and he remembers things like nobody's business. He's a big sports guy. He's always been. Or when you put him in a room with his, people he knew for, since he was a kid, he's just becomes so, lightened up, and he's just amazing. So as adults get older, do you find, and if you do, like what, again, can you do to help them with exercises, different types, is like they'll be very keen with certain things that are of interest to them. And I think we're all even guilty of that. Like we remember things that we want to remember or things that are important to us. So can you talk a little bit about that as it relates to, getting older and those that were around, family members, like things we can do with them perhaps that helps to stimulate and perhaps, helps them improve what they're doing in a way that's very gentle, but a little bit challenging.
Yes, for sure. So first of all, focus on the strengths, for sure. So if they love sports, reminisce about sports. Do trivia with them about sports, right? Because it'll be challenging, but they'll love it and it's fun. Whatever you really enjoy sticks with you. So I actually really enjoy learning new people's names. So I really make an effort. I really use my techniques and I really try hard to remember people's names. So yes, go with the strengths, go with the interests, do what they love. Whatever you love is fun for you. Whatever's fun, you're going to remember, right? Whatever's like when people make jokes, you remember jokes because they're funny and because it sticks in your brain. So definitely when doing exercise and activities to stimulate the brain, definitely go with the people's hobby. So if someone hates pets, don't do trivia with pets, right? That's not interesting to them. That's not going to excite them. And it's amazing how even people with, even I would say moderate dementia can remember things from 50, 60, 70 years ago, right? Because it's really encoded in their long-term memory. And in terms of exercises, so yes, there are all sorts of things that you can do. There's a lot of online programs, like brain training programs that you can do. And a lot of them have like a variety of exercises and also a variety of interests. Like there's one program I'm thinking of, I think it's called Vigorous Minds, where it's not just memory exercises, it has a lot of reminiscence, and it has different interests that you can click on, and then there's reminiscence and trivia questions about that. So you definitely want to focus on the strengths and the interests of that person, because like you said, they light up. That's what they want to talk about. So yes, focus on that. And yes, the brain exercise should be related to what they love.
So
yeah,
a lot of thoughts going through my mind right now. No pun intended there. But biology. What role does the biology play? Like it sounds like you can train the brain's a muscle. Like it sounds a little bit like, but it's also an organ, right? So how much of this is nurture versus nature kind of a thing? And then sort of a second part to this question, at least here, I know you're not in the US, but in the US, there are all sorts of companies promoting all sorts of supplements and pills, like,
yes,
train your brain, improve your brain memory. Like, I think I know what you're going to answer, but I want to reiterate the point so people who are listening, understand that, this topic a little bit better.
Okay. So those are two loaded questions. Okay. So I'll ask the second one first. So supplements. So yes, there are all sorts of supplements out there. I cannot say there's any one magical something that I suggest. There are lots of good ingredients. There's a lot of research on lion's mane and bacopa and all sorts of things. So, but it's hard to know which company and which thing is going to do it for you. So I don't promote or suggest any one company because I haven't tested it enough, I have heard from people in my courses, different things that have helped them. One person said they did really well with CoQ10. Other people have tried ginkgo biloba. Like there's a lot of stuff out there. It's hard to know what's going to do it. And like I said, it's not usually one ingredient. It's usually a bunch of ingredients put together properly. But I can't suggest any one thing that like, that's it for everyone, but there is a lot of good stuff out there. You have to sort of just hear it from someone you trust as to what works. And you can spend a lot of money on this stuff, as you know. So I wouldn't just waste your money without either speaking to a doctor or a functional medicine doctor or a health coach. Someone should guide you because some people need magnesium and some people need, vitamin B. Vitamin B is very involved in our cognition, but you're not going to take vitamin B if you don't need it, right? And the vitamin B is easy. It's a blood test. So some of the other supplements are not as easy. So I would tell people to discuss it with your medical health practitioner or your health coach or your pharmacist to see what's good for you. Don't just waste money on, there's a lot of stuff out there. It might work, it might not. It's really hard to promise or guarantee anything. Now, what was the first question you asked me about two-part?
You didn't remember?
No, I don't.
I'm kidding. It was about the biology. Is it, how much worth the biology and nature and nurture sort of thing.
Okay, right. So that is a great question that everyone wants to know. Years ago, we all thought that if your father or mother or grandmother or grandfather had Alzheimer's, you were doomed and you had the gene, right? We all just assumed that was it. Well, the good news is that is not what we believe anymore. In fact, I recently heard a neurologist say, a team of neurologists actually, I heard them say that 90% of the factors are not genetic. That 90% of the cases are not genetic. There are some dementias that have a genetic piece, but it is so much less than we ever thought. So the lifestyle factors are playing a much bigger role, which means that even if you have a gene, you could almost like offset it or get around it by eating healthy, exercising, staying socially stimulated, staying cognitively stimulated, supplements, diet. There's, getting rid of all the risk factors. So smoking is a risk factor. Stop smoking. Obesity is a risk factor. Lose weight. And I know it's not easy to lose weight. It's not easy to stop smoking. But the research is showing that we can lower our risk of having these diseases by lowering all the risk factors. There's a whole list. Dr. Amen, who's a neuropsychiatrist, came out with a whole list of risk factors. And he says, if you lower your risk factors, you are lowering the risk of getting these dementias and these diseases. So, so it's good news on one hand. On the other hand, it puts a lot of onus on our shoulders. We really got to get to the gym, got to get our body moving, because when our body moves, our mind grooves. That's from Jim Quick. When our body moves, our mind grooves. So there's so much we can do to live a healthier lifestyle. So it's no longer only about genetics, and genetics is just a small piece of it. Now, it is a piece of it. There is something about genetics, but through also a concept called cognitive reserve. Cognitive reserve is people that are very educated, for example, can sort of stave off or bolster against the regular aging stuff, which means, for example, there was a 77-year-old math professor who came to the doctor and said, my memory's I'm starting to have memory problems. And they did some imaging and they saw his brain was ravaged by Alzheimer's disease. And they were like, what? Why is he only coming now and complaining? How is this possible that his brain has the telltale signs of Alzheimer's, but he's only complaining now? And from that, they realized that he was a 77 and still teaching math, that he was using his brain and he had cognitive reserve to back him up so that he was able to stay sharper longer, basically, which is really fascinating.
Well, I love what you just shared, because I actually did not know that. I was convinced, incorrectly, that Alzheimer's was, genetic. We did lose my grandmother many years ago, of course, and she had Alzheimer's. She also smoked a lot. Mm-hmm. And she was an interesting lady. And so you almost get frightened, and as we have parents that are aging, we can see some, cognitive decline. Mm-hmm. And, so it's like, I love all the things that you shared with our audience. And I think that's really important. Do you have any stories, at least one maybe, that you want to share with a client perhaps that you've worked with, where you, gave them some recommendations and they did see improvement? Would love to hear at least, one example. That would be great for our audience to hear that.
Yeah, I have a great example. So the first time I taught my course online, I had been teaching my course here in Israel for a while, and then I decided to put it online so that I could reach people all over the world. So a lady called me and she said that when she was 25, she had a car accident and she had brain damage from the car accident. She got better. She continued to, she went into a field, she worked, she did well. Now she was 75 and her mother, who's 95, has Alzheimer's. So she has a past and she has a future. And she was like, I am doomed. What am I going to do with this brain? Right. And she was starting to have memory issues. And she called me in a panic. She's like, I have this, past brain traumatic brain injury, TBI, and I have this future of Alzheimer's. What should I do? And I said, look, I can't promise you anything. I can't guarantee, because I don't know what's going on inside your brain, right? I can't look inside your brain. But why don't you take my course? Let's try the course. Let's see if the techniques help you. So she did my course the first time I put it on Zoom, and it's a 21-hour course. So it's everything about memory, everything you want to know about memory, how memory works, names, numbers, lists of items, and then I talk about the lifestyle factors to prevent dementia. So it was a very robust course. She did it, and at the end, she felt so much more confident. Now, did it change the reality that she had a TBI and a Alzheimer's? No, it doesn't change the reality. What did it give her? It gave her the confidence to even try to improve her memory. Because if she wouldn't have called me, she would have been like, okay, I'm doomed and there's nothing I can do and I'm not even going to try. But what I gave her was techniques, like a toolbox. So when she does have a memory issue, oh my gosh, I have a tool here. I know how to remember names. I'm going to do this technique. And she had so much more confidence to do it. And she was young. She was still young and active and could really, really do well. And she did do well. There's one more story I have to share with you. A lady did my course the second time I taught it. So before Corona. No, Corona had started, but she didn't have Corona yet. She then had Corona and was suffering from long-term, chronic, And she went to a very prestigious, I won't say which one, but very prestigious long COVID clinic. And because she got Corona after she did my course. So, and she was really suffering for a long time. She went to one of the clinics and they did all these cognitive tests on her because they wanted to see how they could help her. So the speech therapist gave her a list of items to remember. And she she just rattled off the list. And the speech therapist went, "How'd you do that?" And she said, "Well, I took Rena's course. So I just had the technique to do it." And she sent me this in an email. I'm like, that is amazing. That's amazing, because she was really suffering and COVID was affecting her brain, but she was still able to call on those techniques to help her in a serious way. She was able to recite a whole list of items. And I was just so happy for her that it really helped her.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Gotta love that. I know professionally, it sounds like you work one-on-one with people in whatever the setting might be. You have your online programs and your webinars and so forth. What would you recommend someone who wants to learn more to do?
Okay, so they're welcome to get in touch with me, Rena at renayudkowsky.com. You'll have that on the show notes. Or look at my website. I have a bunch of different programs. I have all sorts of ways to improve your memory. I have my membership. I have a monthly program. I have a WhatsApp group with brain exercises. That's really fun. So you click on my website. It's my name. If you can remember my name, you can remember my website and my email. So it's renayudkowsky.com, and Rena at renayudkowsky.com is my email. It's very easy. You just have to know how to spell my name.
Thank you, Rena. Before I ask you the last question, I want to take a few minutes and just talk a little bit about something very exciting that you have going on with your book that's coming out.
Yeah, thank you. So I am part of a collaborative book. It's called The Caregiver's Advocate, and it's coming out hopefully July 2nd. So hopefully, if this is aired after July 2nd, it's available on Amazon. Go to Amazon and type in The Caregiver's Advocate. And 23 of us professionals in the field of caregiving each wrote a chapter on a different aspect of caregiving. So you're going to get so much helpful information, guidance, resources, and ideas. And all of us they're not all social workers. Like, I'm a social worker. There are people there that are geriatric nurses, and there's music therapists and caregiver advocates and associates and consultants. So it's called The Caregiver's Advocate. I wrote a chapter on memory. In fact, I wrote a chapter on the T's. So if you want to read more about it, you can just go get The Caregiver's Advocate. Look it up on Amazon. And if you have any questions or want to ask me more questions about it, you can always email me.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to make sure we got that in. And then, as we come to a close, our final question is simply, Rena, you're very educated. You have a very interesting background. You can do whatever you would like. Why do you wake up every day and do what you do? What's your why?
I love that question. My why is because I really want to help older people live more happily. And when they start to complain about their memories, I have a way to help them. I have a solution to their pain point, to their problem, right? It's very painful when you feel like you're losing your memory, because your memory is your identity. And if I can help someone regain or keep their identity, wow, that's a reason to wake up in the morning.
I love that. That's really amazing. So again, we thank you for joining us today on Prime Life Podcast. We look forward to reading your book and hearing more about that. So we're going to definitely keep in touch, and we'll definitely air this episode after the launch of your book, because we're excited for you about that. And you're welcome, Rena. And to all of our audience and everyone who listens to our podcast, we look forward to being with you for another episode of the Prime Life Podcast. And don't forget, follow us, like us, give us feedback. We'd love to hear from you. And until next time, thank you so much.
Remember to subscribe to the Prime Life Podcast anywhere you find podcasts. You can find all of our episodes, contact information, and more on our website, primelifepodcast.com. Stay connected with us. Follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.